Hello, this is exercise 2A on algebraic expressions and is on page 80 of your textbook. Alright, so this exercise or this lesson is specifically on terminology of algebra. So basically what words we use to describe different things in algebra. So first thing I'm going to talk about is variables versus pronumerals. So variables and pronumerals are just letters used in algebra. So for example, a, x, whatever it is, that's our variable or pronumeral. So for example, if the question says find the variable or find the pronumeral, it just means to find x or y or a or whatever letter it is. Awesome. So an expression is the numbers or pronumerals or pronumerals connected by an order of operations. So for example, I could have 5x to the power x squared plus 3 minus 4x. That's an expression. It's numbers and pronumerals or numbers and variables connected by any of these. So plus, minus, multiply, divide, brackets, or indices. Indices, once again, are these little to the power ofs, right? So it could be x to the power of 7. That's an indice. Index. There. Index or indices. Awesome. So up next is terms, coefficients, constant terms. So terms are basically, it's a combination of numbers and variables connected only by multiplication and division. So for example, if I say 4x plus 3x squared minus 4y, okay? If I say something like this, I've got three terms here. I've got this term here, and this term here. So my terms are, now, there's nothing there, but we know it's a positive because there's nothing there. So it's a positive 4x, that's my first term. My second term is positive 3x squared. And my third term is negative 4y. So remember, there is a negative there, and we have to consider that. So those are my three terms, okay? Now, that's because in between 4x, you don't see it because we don't write it, but it's actually 4x is 4 times x. 3x squared is 3 times x squared, right? So that's what a term is. It's connected by a multiplication or division. Now, terms are separated by plus or minus. So in this case, you can see every time after I've written a term, I've written plus or minus, minus there. So I've cut it off like that. So those are how I separate my terms, okay? So those are the terms. Coefficients are the numbers in front of the terms. So for example, if I have 6x minus 4y, my coefficients, so that's the term, sorry, I'll just write terms here. These are terms, and then my coefficient. So, my coefficient of 6x is the 6, that's my coefficient. Coefficient of negative 4y, because remember I'm cutting it off here, negative 4y is negative 4, that's my coefficient, okay? So it's the number in front of the pronumeral. If my term was negative 3xy squared, my coefficient is negative 3. So that's how we find our coefficient. And lastly, our constant term. Our constant term is just the term that is only a number, no pronumeral. So if my equation, let's say, my expression is 4x squared minus 4 plus 7y, I've got my terms separated like this. So positive 4x squared, negative 4, and positive 7y. Now, which term has only a number in it, no pronumeral? Negative 4. So that one right there is my constant, okay? So hopefully that makes a bit of sense. I'm going to go ahead and do some examples, and hopefully that it will clear things up. So let's go ahead and do this one on the right. Match each item in the left column with an item on the right column. So product is another name for multiplication. Sum is another name for addition. Difference is another name for subtraction. Quotient is another name for division. Now here's where it gets a bit tougher. X squared is the same as the square of x, right? So I'm just going to connect that there, square of x. And 1 divided by a is the reciprocal of a. Now reciprocal just means I flip the fraction. So flip fraction. Now, hopefully you would agree that 4 is equal to 4 divided by 1. So at any time, if I have 7, that's equal to 7 divided by 1, right? So the same thing applies if I have x. X is x over 1. A is equal to a over 1. Now, reciprocal means to flip the fraction, right? So if I flip the fraction, the reciprocal of A is, now flip that, and I get 1 over A. So that's what that is, reciprocal of A. But that's not too important right now. I want you to focus on the other things I've talked about. Let's move on. So write an algebraic expression for each of the following. So I'm looking at this one over here. Let's go with A first. So the sum, C, D, and D. Okay. The sum of 2 and x. So the sum once again means to add. So the sum of 2 of x is 2 plus x. B, the sum of a, b, and y. So I say sum of a, b, so a, b is there, and y, I add them together because it's a sum. That's it. A, b plus y. 5 less than x. So less than x, so I say x, take away 5, and then the product of x and 3. So product once again means multiplication. So I say x times 3, or I can just write 3x. Great. Let's do this one. So state the number of terms in these expressions. So I'm going to go ahead, really zoom in and do the boxes. So state the number of terms. Positive 5x is there, and I've got positive 2y. So that means I've got 2 here. Positive 1 and positive 2a squared, also 2. B squared and positive ca, and negative 1. That ends up with 3 terms. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's move on to the last one over here. Evaluate these expressions. So evaluate means to solve for the polynomial. So solve for polynomial. So that could be x or y, whatever it is. When a equals 4, b equals negative 3, and c equals 7. So a is 4, b is negative 3, c is 7. So for a, let's write a, b, c. For a, I'm saying b minus a times c, right? Because there's a hidden times. ac is equal to a times c, right? Remember that. So every time I see b, I'm writing negative 3. Every time I see a, I'm writing 4. Every time I see c, I write 7. Okay? So now it becomes b is negative 3, so negative 3 minus a is 4, c is 7, so 4 times 7, and end up with negative 3 minus 28, which gives me negative 31. Let's do b. b times c, so b times c minus a, so b is negative 3 times by c, which is 7, minus a, which is 4, and I end up with negative 21 minus 4 gives me negative 25. And finally, I get a squared minus c squared. Remember, a squared equals to a times a, right? So I end up with a times a minus c times c. So I say, well, a is 4, right? So a is 4, so I write 4 times 4 minus c, which is 7. So I write 7 times 7, and end up with 16 minus 49, and that gives me an answer of negative 33. Okay, hopefully that makes a bit of sense. Let me know if you have any questions.